Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to What's Today. I'm the good old WTD question mark here on my channel. The segment where I can come here and unleash all of my inner anger and rage and hatred and sorrow, the sadness, all of the negative emotions that cripple me psychologically just for the sake of entertaining you guys with a little short video bringing you the information of things that piss me the hell off, Although I have to, consider the possibility that I would have been much more pissed off if I was a Detroit Lions fan. But, well, I support the Miami Dolphins and nothing like this has ever happened to my team, ever, as far as I know. So, well, if you happen to be a supporter of the Lions, I really hope you don't hate me. You should hate your team, your players, your coaching staff, the GMs, everybody who contributed to making 2008 the worst Detroit Lions season in their franchise, and quite possibly, at least in the opinion of many football fans, myself included, the absolute worst season that any NFL team has ever had in a regular season, right? Now, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, just a little bit of backstory, right? The Detroit Lions in 2008 had gone completely winless, They had gone 0-16 in the regular season, which is 0 wins and 16 losses. Now that right there is very sad for a number of reasons, right? So the first one right off the bat is that it's one of 4 winless seasons, throughout the 16-game schedule ever since the NFL merger in 1970. The merger happened when the AFL and the NFL, the American Football League and the National Football League came together to create one football league, And so since that merger there, this was actually the second time that a team had gone winless, 0-16, the first being the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, in 1978, the league game schedule was updated to 16 games, right? And that happened until 2020 when it was updated to 17 games. So throughout that period there, the Detroit Lions were the first team to go winless, 0-16. You could argue that the 2017 Cleveland Browns season was just as bad, if not worse, because they matched those stats there, But I still think that the Lions pulled off something special in 2008, man. They really pulled off something special because holy freaking crap, it's not easy to lose 16 games, man. It's really complex, and they obviously did not qualify for any playoff games, and they finished 4th in the NFC North. The coaching staff was fired, some of the players were traded. It was just this huge disaster, especially for fans of the team. It was really hard to witness. If you saw some of the games, you saw the defensive breakdown. The players were allowing so many yards. It was just detestable, man. And I'm really lucky that I am not a Detroit Lions fan and I saw that season, it's really hard to think of a worse season that a football team can have, man, with the baseline stats and the amount of points that they allowed, it was really sad. Really freaking sad. So I'm going to be getting into a little bit more details. I'm going to break down the statistics, and some of the baseline stats that led to the Lions becoming such a crappy team back then. But before that, let's take a look at a random clip from a random game here from that disastrous season.
By the way, Michael Bishop in 2000, former Patriot great, last quarterback to throw a touchdown on his first NFL pass. Here's Turner, busting tackles for 66. It's 14-0 Falcons. Who knew? Still in the first, Turner again. His second touchdown of the quarter. The Lions defense allowed the Falcons an Atlanta record 318 rushing yards.
Who would have thought at the beginning of the season, man, that there was such disasters to follow, I mean, holy freaking crap, man. I don't think even the most pessimistic Detroit Lions fan could have expected what actually happened, But first, a little bit of backstory, right? Now, this was the 79th season that the Detroit Lions were playing in the NFL, but their 75th as the Detroit Lions, right? Because in 1930, they were established as the Portsmouth Spartans, Then in 1933, they changed their names to the Detroit Lions and played their first season as the Lions in 34, and they even had this throwback replica uniform, going back to 1934, where they kind of like mixed up their traditional silver and blue and white colors, and played 2 games with those uniforms, which looked really good, They had new solid helmets too, because the helmets were all leather back then, So they kind of revamped their designs. They had a new alternative black uniform jersey, It was really awesome. But unfortunately, well, it did not end the way that they wanted to, because in the previous season they had a 7-9 record, so 7 wins and 9 losses, and they were hoping to build on that in 2008, try to maybe go a little bit further and win some more games, and they even started the preseason going undefeated. Now bear in mind, their record 7-9 the previous season was their best ever since the 2000 NFL season, right? So they were actually doing pretty good for themselves, but unfortunately they started to lose more and more in games and allow more and more points, and in the end they actually finished off by allowing 517 points, throughout the entire regular season, which was just 16 points shy of the Indianapolis Colts back in 1981 when they allowed 533 points. Ironically, the exact same team though, the Detroit Lions in 2020, would eclipse that when they allowed 519 points, but that's a whole other story for another day. Now the thing is that they actually had an average of 31.32 points allowed per game throughout the regular season in 08, which is actually the 3rd worst in NFL history, if you can believe it. The first is actually the 1966 New York Giants, who allowed 35.79 points per game, and then in second place, can you guess it? It's also the 1981 Indianapolis Colts, who allowed 33.31 points per game. That is very sad, man, and if you go on YouTube, there's an entire playlist, I think I'm gonna leave a link to it here in case you want to see how the breakdown was, which actually captures the entire 2008 regular season by the Lions, and you guys can see that it was very hard to watch, man. They were allowing so many players to run and pass the ball for touchdowns, and gain yardage. Like, their defense was one of the worst I've ever seen in the NFL, It was really, really hard to take them seriously. It's almost like they were throwing the games, It was really hard to watch. It was very sad, and from a football standpoint, from a football point of view, the sports side, it was a bunch of boys playing against men, It was really complex, man. There were way too many easy plays that were being pulled on the defense. Like, the offensive teams were coming out and just running circles around them, They were allowing way too many yards and way too many easy points, and essentially it led to an entire snowball effect, They lost pretty much every game, In the beginning of the season, they played the Atlanta Falcons, they lost. In the middle of the season, week 8, they played against the Washington Redskins, who are now the Commanders, and they lost, In week 16, they played against the Saints, they lost, Everything was just, it's like the teams were pretty much just accumulating statistics against him. It was really, really hard to watch and very sad, especially if you're a fan. But mathematically, they were already eliminated from playoff contention in week 11, with their loss to the Carolina Panthers, So there was no point in hoping for any Super Bowl or conference or division playoffs, That they were gone, they were out, All they could do now was play a few more games and maybe win and get some touchdowns. They did score some TDs in a few games. They didn't go pointless, but I think that around the halfway point, maybe around week 7 or 8 or 9, the fans were already very, very accepting of their fate. Now, before I continue, let's take a look at another clip here, from another game at a random time.
Ramsey Robinson on the blitz. Jason Campbell avoids him and finds Santana Moss. Campbell, 23 of 28, has not thrown an interception this season. You just saw Moss. He had 9 receptions for 140 yards. Also, this 80-yard punt return. So he had a 50-plus yard TD reception, an 80-plus punt return. Just the 5th player since the merger ever to do that.
Now, when you put together their record from the 2007 season and the 2008 season, they actually had lost 23 out of their last 24 regular season games. So with those 2 seasons put together, they now had a record of 17 consecutive regular season losses, which is very, very tragic, for a team as big as the Lions. And, it also the damage reached up to the management staff, because Matt Millen, who was not only the team president, but also the general manager and the CEO, I believe, right? Yeah, he was the president, CEO, and also the GM. He actually got fired in week 4, and he had actually been in that position, since 2001. So, I can understand, because it was a very, very disastrous moment for the franchise, but still, what was even sadder was head coach Rod Marinelli, I believe it's how you pronounce his name. He was actually fired, a day after the week 17 loss to the, I think it was the Packers, right? No, yeah, I think they played the Packers, the Lions, right? Well, after their loss to the Packers, Rod was actually fired, even though he had a 10-38 record with the team, you know. A lot of his staff was also let go along with him, you know. So his assistant coaches, his line coaches, the assistant coordinators, everybody was fired along with him, you know. There was a whole entire structural change, you know, within the team. I believe there were some players who were also traded, you know. However, there was a little bit of a silver lining, you know, because the very next year they got the first overall pick for a quarterback, which was Matthew Stafford, who I'm pretty sure you know had a good amount of success, you know, when he was drafted, you know. He went on to break several NFL and franchise records. You know, later he would go on to the Rams and win them a Super Bowl, you know. So the Detroit Lions started to change in 2009. They had a much better season, but 2008 will definitely be remembered as quite possibly one of, if not the worst season for any team, you know, because the Cleveland Browns had a really bad stint of it back in 2016, 2017. I know they had a few very embarrassing records as well, but I think it's really hard for any team to come close to what the Lions achieved, or rather didn't achieve, in 2008, man, you know. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, man, you know. And if you were following the games live, if you went to the stadiums and saw them on TV as a Detroit Lions fan, I am so sorry. I gotta be honest. I know that sometimes I'll do some playful banter as a Miami Dolphins supporter, but I do genuinely feel sorry for you guys. You know, like if it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is my team's rival, then I don't care. You know, it's even better for that to happen, even though it did in '76. You know, but still, I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard to see your team go through such a painful moment, you know, it's really difficult. So my heart goes out, my condolences to all of the Lions fans who witnessed what happened in 2008 and also in 2020, you know. But still, 2008, man, is unanimously considered by fans to be the worst season ever, you know. It's really hard to surpass what the Lions pulled off in 2008, man. Everything went wrong. There was the game, if you go and watch the highlights on YouTube or even the full games that they do have available, it's so hard, man. As a football fan, you kind of cringe, you know. It's like, how can a team be so bad? And they had gone 7-9 the previous year, man. Like, what the hell? Imagine how much money the franchise lost, you know. But still, I'm going to show you guys one final clip here of one more game from that disastrous season before I move on to the final stretch.
Into the fourth goal. Oh, they still believe, right? Yeah, by the way, 0 times any number is 0, and division by 0 is, well, really hard and sort of meaningless. Fourth quarter, there you go. Aaron Rodgers deep to Donald Driver. This was right after Detroit had scored to make it 24-21. Oh, and look at Driver just abuses Lee Bodden. Rodgers, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Packers.
Here's a random fun fact for you guys. The last remaining active member in the NFL of that disastrous team in 08 was Don Mubach, you know, who was a long snapper who retired in 2020. And at the time, he was the oldest player still active in the NFL besides Tom Brady, you know, a little bit of a random trivia fact for you guys there. He was the last one who carried that shameful team into his retirement and possibly to his grave now. Oh, the poor guys, man. They're never going to get over what happened in 08. But anyway, I want to hear from you guys now. Shout out in the comments below if you agree with me or disagree. If you really actually think that the 08 Lions were the worst NFL team ever. If you think the Cleveland Browns in 2017 did worse, because they did match the record, by the way. The reason that I compared this team to the 2017 Browns is because they also went 0-16, so it's a direct comparison, you know. And well, you guys might be able to argue the 2020 Detroit Lions team, you know, whatever team you want, you know. Let me know in the comments below who you guys think are actually worse, you know. Never thought I'd be saying that. Who do you guys think is worse? You know, wait, there's a reason why this video is in What's the Damage, man. I'm not praising this team, you know, but I would love to hear from you guys down below if you're football fans. And if you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload. And it's all good, guys. It's all good. I hope that the camera wasn't too bright today, the whole thingy with the stuff and whatnot. What a bad day to be a Detroit Lions fan, huh? If you came across this video remembering what happened. But that's it, guys. This is Chazzy signing out for now. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen. Not the winless one, the regular outro screen.